All right, so today, let's dive into something I think we can all relate to.
Okay.
That feeling of, being judged,
Oh, yeah.
especially about our appearance.
Hmm.
That little voice in your head
Yeah.
that whispers, what are they thinking about my outfit?
Right.
Or do I look awkward?
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt that?
Oh, yeah. It's almost a universal experience, I think. But
Yeah.
we've all felt that self-conscious pang at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So today we're taking a deep dive
Okay.
into a podcast episode called Overcoming the Fear of Judgment from the Conquer Your Fears series.
Interesting.
And even just reading that title took me back to
Right.
this party I went to where I was just convinced everyone was like secretly judging my outfit.
Oh, no.
Talk about a confidence killer.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up because
Yeah.
the episode actually dives into how societal pressures and beauty standards can like fuel this fear.
Right.
And with social media constantly like bombarding us with these idealized images, it's no wonder so many people struggle with it.
Oh, for sure. And they even mentioned this term
Yeah.
called scopophobia,
Oh, wow.
the fear of being looked at.
Interesting.
That sounds pretty intense, but like beyond the surface,
Yeah.
what's really going on when we're gripped by this fear of judgment?
Well, what's fascinating here is that like the fear often stems from this deeper desire for acceptance and this fear of not like measuring up.
Right.
It's like we're seeking validation from the outside world instead of looking within.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin to untangle this fear?
Well, the source emphasizes self-awareness as like the first step.
Okay.
We need to pay attention to our triggers.
Right.
What situations or thoughts amplify that feeling of self-consciousness? Like, is it walking into a crowded room,
Yeah.
catching your reflection in a mirror,
Yeah.
maybe scrolling through social media?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting because once you pinpoint those triggers, you can start to challenge those negative thoughts
Yes,
that usually come along for the ride.
exactly. And one of the most powerful tools
Yeah.
the podcast highlights is this simple fact that most people are far too preoccupied with themselves
Right.
to be judging us
Yeah.
as harshly as we imagine.
Totally. It's so easy to get trapped in our own heads and just assume everyone's laser focused on us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But the truth is most people are just as worried about
Yeah.
what others think of them. They're
Yeah.
dealing with their own insecurities.
Right.
So instead of thinking, everyone's judging me,
Yeah.
try reframing it as most people are focused on themselves.
That's a good one.
It's a subtle shift,
Yeah.
but it can be incredibly liberating.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
that reframing technique actually taps into like a key principle of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Okay, cool.
It's all about breaking those cycles of like negative self-talk.
Okay, so by changing our thoughts, we can actually change how we feel.
Exactly.
It's like rewiring our brains.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those times when like
Right.
the negative thoughts just feel too powerful?
Yeah.
What do we do then?
That's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay,
It's like offering yourself the same kindness and understanding
right.
you'd give to like a friend struggling with insecurity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we're often way harder on ourselves
Mhm.
than we would ever be on someone we care about.
Exactly. It's about silencing that inner critic and treating yourself with the same gentleness and support.
Yeah.
Instead of beating yourself up, try asking yourself,
Okay.
what would I say to a friend feeling this way?
That's a good point. I wonder if sometimes that inner critic can also serve as like
Yeah.
a motivator for self-improvement.
Yeah.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
That's a really insightful observation. And you're right, it is a delicate balance.
Yeah.
The key is to be constructive,
Right.
not destructive.
Yeah.
Instead of harsh criticism, focus on gentle encouragement and like realistic goals.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we actually start building that confidence?
Okay.
It can feel like such an abstract concept sometimes.
Yeah, the podcast suggests starting small, making gradual changes that build upon each other.
Okay.
It could be as simple as wearing clothes that make you feel good,
Right.
or improving your posture.
I'm curious, how can these seemingly small actions
Yeah.
actually make a difference in how we feel about ourselves?
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
When you stand tall and walk with confidence,
Yeah.
you're literally changing the way you carry yourself in the world.
Right.
And when you choose clothing that makes you feel comfortable and authentic,
Yeah.
you're sending a message to yourself and others that you
Yeah.
value who you are.
Hmm.
These subtle shifts can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
gradually boosting your confidence and changing the way you perceive yourself.
So it's about sending those positive signals to ourselves.
Yes,
Reinforcing that feeling of self-worth.
precisely. It's like planting seeds of confidence that will eventually blossom.
I like that.
And as that confidence grows, we
Yeah.
can start stepping out of our comfort zones little by little.
Right. This is where facing our fears head-on comes into play.
Exactly. The source uses the technique called desensitization.
Okay.
It involves gradually exposing ourselves
Uh-huh.
to the things that trigger our fear of judgment.
So how does this desensitization thing actually work?
Let's say taking photos is a trigger for you.
Okay.
Instead of avoiding cameras altogether, start by taking a few selfies in private
Right.
as you get more comfortable.
Yeah.
You might try taking pictures with a friend or family member.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to gradually increase the intensity of the exposure.
So it reminds me of exposure therapy,
Yeah.
which is used to help people overcome phobias.
Right.
It's about systematically facing your fears until they lose their power.
Mm.
But I think a lot of people might struggle with taking that first step.
Yeah.
Any tips for getting over that initial hurdle?
Remember, it's all about taking baby steps. You don't have to conquer your fear overnight.
Yeah.
Start with something that feels slightly uncomfortable, but manageable.
Okay.
Maybe instead of avoiding mirrors completely,
Right.
try looking at your reflection for a few seconds longer each day.
Okay, I love that. It's about setting realistic goals
Yeah.
and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
The podcast also emphasizes the power of gratitude,
Yes.
which seems a little unexpected.
Uh-huh.
How does being thankful actually help us overcome the fear of judgment?
Well, when we focus on what we're grateful for,
Okay.
it shifts our attention away from those negative self-judgments.
Right.
Instead of fixating on perceived flaws, we start appreciating our positive qualities, our
Uh-huh.
strengths,
Yeah.
and the unique things that make us who we are.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
When we're constantly comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah.
We lose sight of our own worth. But gratitude helps us to recognize and appreciate our own unique beauty and value.
It's such a powerful perspective shift.
Yeah.
It reminds us that true value doesn't come from external validation
Right.
or fitting into some idealized mold.
Yeah.
It comes from within. It comes from our character,
Right.
our kindness, our actions, and the contributions we make to the world.
Yeah, this whole idea of shifting our focus from external validation
Right.
to internal validation is so powerful. It's like we're reclaiming our self-worth.
Absolutely. And when we realize that our worth isn't contingent on the opinions of others, the fear of judgment starts to lose its grip.
Right.
We become free to be ourselves authentically and unapologetically.
And as we're exploring these strategies, I'm realizing how interconnected
Yeah.
self-awareness, self-compassion, and confidence really are. They all play a part in helping us break free from that fear.
They absolutely do. It's like a positive feedback loop
Yeah.
as we become more self-aware.
Right.
We can practice more self-compassion,
Right.
which then fuels our confidence
Uh-huh.
and ultimately helps us overcome that fear of judgment.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a whole new arsenal of tools to combat that pesky fear of judgment.
Awesome. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Cute.
So many people grapple with this fear, and there are countless resources available to help you navigate it.
That's a great point. We'll be sure to include some helpful links in the show notes
Yeah,
for anyone who wants to explore this further.
absolutely.
Before we wrap up, let's recap some of the key takeaways
Okay.
from this episode.
Sounds good.
We started by talking about the importance of self-awareness, pinpointing those triggers that ignite that fear of judgment.
Right.
And once we know our triggers, we can start challenging those negative thoughts,
Yes.
replacing them with more positive and realistic ones.
Absolutely.
It's like we're becoming our own thought detectives.
Love it.
And let's not forget the power of self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd extend to a friend who's struggling.
Yeah, such an important point.
And we also talked about taking small steps to build confidence, whether it's through our clothing posture
Right.
or gradually stepping outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah,
Remember, even the smallest acts of courage can make a big difference.
absolutely.
And finally, cultivate gratitude.
Yes.
Make it a daily practice to appreciate your strengths, your unique qualities, and all the wonderful things that make you you.
Such great advice.
This has been such an inspiring conversation.
Yeah, it has.
I'm walking away feeling empowered to face that fear head on.
And as a final thought, I'd like to leave you with this question. What's one small step you can take today to start overcoming the fear of judgment? It could be wearing that outfit you love but have been hesitant to wear.
Oh, yeah.
Practicing self-compassionate self-talk.
Yeah?
Or simply acknowledging one thing you appreciate about yourself.
That's a great question to ponder. We encourage you to take a moment to reflect on that. Remember, every journey begins with a single step.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
We hope you leave feeling inspired to conquer your fears and embrace your most authentic self.
Until next time,